G'day guys, welcome back to the, here you go, don't mind me go. G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of Cocked Up Adventures. Like I said yesterday, I can't go out and explore at the moment because I'm a little bit banged up. But I thought I'd take time to give you some tutorials on how to, the things I do, either with fishing, camping, this, that and the other. But today we're talking about camp ovens. The recipe I'm cooking today is a personal favourite of mine. It's called golden syrup dumplings, but I personally don't like golden syrup, so I substitute it with maple syrup, and it works just as well and it tastes, if not better. The recipe today I'll tell you is based on an 8-litre camp oven, but I've readjusted my ingredients for a 10-litre camp oven. It's just got to do with the amount of syrup so that the dumplings cook in it. But like I said, it's for an 8-litre camp oven, the recipe I'll tell you. But by all means, if you have a bigger one, a smaller one, change it to suit. It's not hard. You just take out some of the ingredients, but we'll get more into that later. This camp oven here, I bought from Bunnings for 80 bucks. Absolute curler of a camp oven. I won't go anywhere without it. Most people have an 8-litre, which is why I'll tell you the 8-litre recipe. But for 80 bucks for a 10-litre, I couldn't go wrong. I can cook now a full leg of lamb in the camp oven, and that suits me perfectly because I love a good roast, and anyone that knows me knows I love a good feed. But I'm by all means not a chef. I just love to cook. So yeah, today I'll go through the recipe with you, but I'll also show you how to replicate different cooking styles with a camp oven while you're out camping, such as stovetop cooking, oven, broiling and roasting, and frying. So I'll go through the steps on how to use that, or how to make your camp oven work to what you need. A lot of people bugger it up and they sit it either in the fire or next to the fire, and you can, like a half leg of lamb will cook within an hour if you've got it too hot. So, and then you got cold, middle, burnt outside. No one wants that. So I'll go through all the tips that I know, that I've learned from family, from friends, from the older generation while I'm out camping. They've stopped by and said, you should try this. So I'm just going to tell you everything I know, and while we're doing it, I'm going to make myself some maple syrup dumplings because I've got a bit of a sweet tooth today. So we'll get into that. I'll just let the fire heat up a bit more. I need a few more coals, so when that gets up to temp, I'll bring out all the ingredients and we'll go through the cooking steps for that. Just so you know, I've got my water and I've got my garden hose and my fire's in an enclosed area. So everything's done right. I just need the coals. So once I've got the coals and I've got the camp oven up to temp, I'm going to put the fire out and we're going to cook with that. So hope you enjoy. One thing I just want to point out is when you're out camping, you probably won't have an enclosed fire. I mean, some people do. I take one up, but it's not as well ventilated as this. This is really well ventilated underneath. It's got quite a lot of air holes and a grate that goes over the top. Now, the problem with this is it allows air to come in, which burns coals down to ash rather than a charcoal type, like your normal coals. So what I'm doing is I'm just preheating my camp oven, and you can do this while you're out camping, it doesn't matter. I like to get my camp oven warm, not hot, not like if you dropped oil in there the oil would instantly start to fry something, but warm. So because I don't make enough coals, I make more ash than I do coals, unless the fire's like been burning for a while. Yeah, I like to preheat. So if you've got an enclosed fire or an Ozpig or something like that, preheat your camp oven. Makes it life easier. But if you
if you haven't got a lot of airflow through your fire, you'll find that you'll have a lot more coals or hot coals down the bottom more than ash. As you can see, it's all white. That's the charcoal turning to ash, which means it's fully burned. So what I'm trying to do now is just smother the fire. That's why everything's out like that, and then what that'll do is it'll stop the air going through, and it will cause more coals to form rather than ash. And at the same time, I'm preheating my camp oven with the lid on, so I won't keep that on there for forever. I'll just heat it up, and then I'll take it off. So it'll get up to about 200, 220 degrees, roughly. You know, like I can go near it, just touch it, I'll take it off and let it come back down to a temperature, because to start this golden syrup dumplings, you want it about 90 degrees because you want the syrup to simmer. You don't want it to boil. So that's just a little tip while I'm heating up the fire. Yeah, stay tuned for the rest of it. Right guys, I just want to correct something I said earlier about the size of camp oven this recipe's for. It's for an 8-inch camp oven, which is, I think, it's close to 8 litres, but I think it's about 6 or 5 or something. But like I said, all you got to do is just add more of like your ingredients to make it for a bigger one. What you'll need for your syrup is sugar. It doesn't matter if you use brown or white. Brown turns it more into a nice syrup. If you've ever baked before, you would know that. Maple or golden syrup, cup of water, and that's all for your syrup. You're going to need half a cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of golden syrup, and a cup of water for your syrup, and that's for an 8-inch camp oven. I'll say that again, an 8-inch camp oven. So what we want to do, we want to get the syrup going first. So we'll put the sugar in, then we'll add our cup of water. Now like I said, I readjusted, and a tablespoon of butter for the syrup. But I've readjusted this for my camp oven, so it's slightly, the levels of the ingredients are slightly higher. Got maple syrup in there. What we want to do is just give this a quick stir. And then a tablespoon of butter in there. Give that a mix up there. Now when we put this in the camp oven, what we want to do is, because we've preheated, it's good, we want to slowly bring it up to a simmer. So we put this in, and before we start making the actual dumplings, so it slowly comes up to a simmer and it's nice and hot. Because what we're doing is we're frying the dumplings in the syrup, so that the syrup goes through the dumplings and it cooks up and it browns up nice, and you get a nice thick syrupy glaze on your dumplings. So it doesn't matter if your butter doesn't mix in, it's fine, that's going to melt in the camp oven. So I'm just going to go put this in the camp oven. And now we're going to come back and we're going to make the actual dumplings while that's heating up. Like I said, you want to bring that sauce up to a simmer, or the syrup up to a simmer. Now for the dumplings, it's 1 cup of self-raising flour. We're going to put that in our bowl, like so. And then, sorry, hang on. Sorry, I thought my phone turned off then. So, and then we want to put in 2 tablespoons of butter. Now I've already pre-measured these out, so it makes it easier. But you know, like anything, recipes are there to guide you. You know, it's like cooking with garlic, right? Don't let a recipe tell you how much garlic you want to put in something. You know, if it says 1 clove, you know, stuff it, smash in 4. If you love garlic, do it. If you want to make your dumplings and you want to make them a bit richer, you want to make them a bit sweeter, this, that and the other, add things into them. Do whatever, put cinnamon in it. I don't care. You know, it's all up to you. So what we want to do is we want to rub the butter into the flour. And what this is going to do is when we cook, when these are cooking, right? We don't want to mix it in too much, because when these are cooking, these butter chunks, right, are going to add air pockets, and when the butter separates from the curds and the milk or the water's going to steam off, and it's going to create a nice soft dumpling. So that's what that is. This is the same sort of technique when you're making like croissants or something. You have your pastry, you put a layer of butter down, you fold it over, you do the same, you put another layer, and you keep doing that. The more layers and more chunks of butter, you know, you have in it, the softer, the steamier, and just the melty dumplings you're going to have. Now, this should look like breadcrumbs when it's done, as such, like that. Bit of a zoom up for you. Should look like breadcrumbs. Next, we want to add in 1 lightly beaten egg. So just crack an egg, mix it up a bit until the yolk breaks, and then that's all. We're going to pour that in there. And we'll get our fork, and we'll mix it around, like so. Now, I've actually left an ingredient inside, so I'm going to have to run in and grab it. I'm not going to cut because the kitchen's only about 10 metres away. So once I've just mixed this in, I'm going to run and grab it. I'll be back. I'm back. Now, so what we're going to do is we're going to add in milk. I forgot to tell you. Now, this milk isn't a measured amount. It's as you need. So, what you want for your dumplings is you don't want a tacky dough, right? But you don't want a dry dough. So right now this is a really dry, flaky dough. It's not going to, you know, swell up well, and it's tough if you cook it like that. So what we'll do is we'll add in a bit of milk. Now only little bits at a time. You know, if you're cooking with more flour, it's going to be sorry, I'm just trying to break this up to get the milk on the inside because I forgot to add it with the egg. So you want to get all that all mixed in and all homogeneous towards each other. Now that's still a pretty dry dough, so I'm going to add in a little bit more milk. Like I said, you don't want it super sticky. You want a nice, smooth, easy to knead dough. It may look sticky, but that's because I didn't add it in with the eggs and mix it up at the start. But we'll get them in. Get that all mixed up. A little bit too much milk. I think it's, oh no I haven't, that's good. So it's fine. See how I mean, like you only want to add a little bit of milk in at a time. Just because of how quickly the dough can change. If you're a baker, or you know how to bake, or you've baked quite a bit, you'll understand. So what we want to do now is we want to get a few dumpling sized balls. They don't have to be perfect. You know, they can be a few big ones, a few little ones, doesn't matter, depending on how many people you want. If it's just for you, then make it just for you. Now, I've still got milk in this bowl, so this is, Chevy, get out of it. Sorry, don't mind the goat. Get out of it. Right, so I've made 6. You know, and these should swell up quite nicely. Like so. So I've made 6. Now we've got to wait for that to simmer up and come up to temperature. So we just let those sit, and I'm going to cut and pack everything up and then come back. Now this recipe, like as you're saying, takes 10 minutes to get everything ready to make it, and then it takes about 20 minutes to cook at the right temperature. So like I said, we'll let them sit. I'm going to pack up the rest of this, and then we're going to cut to me putting them in the camp oven. So what I've done here is I've taken the camp oven off the fire, and I've laid down a bed of coal because I want the heat to come up through the bottom and simmer that. Now that's come up to temperature, which is good. So I'm going to go get the dumplings and I'm going to put them in there, and then while that's cooking, I'll explain to you the different ways to use your camp oven to replicate different styles of cooking at home, so you can make the best meals while you're at camping and just live in luxury. Right, that's simmering away. I'm getting the dumpling, and I'm just going to put them in there. Now it may look like, you know, I've got a pretty big camp oven for a, you know, 6 dumplings, but like I said, I'm doing this for me. And, you know, I might give the missus one. But nice dumplings. And you spread them out a bit, because they will expand a little bit, but they're going to be nice and soft because of all that butter that we rubbed in rather than mixed in. So it's all layered up. Yeah, so I'll put the lid back on, and then I'll explain to you the different techniques to replicate home cooking. Right, so now I'll explain to you how to replicate different cooking techniques. So I'm going to talk in ratios, and what I mean by that is the first number in my ratio will be for the top, and the second number will be for the bottom. So right now I'm cooking like I'm cooking on a stovetop. So I've got a 0 to 1 ratio of coals. So none on top, 1 or 2 shovels on the bottom, depending on the temperature you need. I only needed about 90 degree to 100 degree to cook this. So I've only put 1 shovel load of coals on the bottom. Now when you want to bake, it's a 2 to 1 ratio. So it's 2 lots of coals on top, 1 on the bottom. And what that does is it keeps the top part of the camp oven hot. So it circulates heat that way. So the heat it'll cool down, go up, and do this, because heat rises. When you want to roast, it's a 1 to 1. So the same amount of coals on top to the same amount of coals on the bottom. And what that does is it cooks from the bottom as well as cooks from the top. When you want to broil something, you only want to put coals on top, so it's a 1 to 0 ratio. And when you want to fry something or boil, you know, if you want to cook like a corned beef, smash coals just on the bottom. Just absolutely smash coals, get it as hot as you can, and it will boil up. Now the best thing about a camp oven is they're not sealed. So if you're boiling water, every now and again you'll hear it go, and it will lift up and it will depressurize. That's good, because that's how you know that the inside temperature is up to temp and the steam and the pressure is there cooking your meat. I'll show a little demonstration on a piece of paper after all this to let you know exactly what I meant when I said the ratios and where to put the coals and this, that and the other. Now you can dig a hole and put these in the ground to retain heat, so you only need a little amount of coals, but because I've got a fire constantly going, I can move out the cold coals and put in warm coals. But this only takes 20 minutes to cook, so I shouldn't need to do that. But when you're cooking a roast or something else that takes a while to cook, then you'll need to switch out some coals every now and again. So now we're back inside, just mind the shadow here. I just wanted to go over the ratios and show you what I meant. So with a camp oven you can do stovetop cooking, broiler cooking, oven cooking and roasting. And frying, obviously, but if you want stovetop, it's a 0 to 1. So the first number I refer to is how many coals you put up the top. The second number is how many coals you put down the bottom. Now this will depend on the temperature you want, but the ratio is the number I'm talking about. So for a stovetop, it's 0 to 1. So 0 coals on top to 1 coals down the bottom, right? Broiler. Now if you want, broiler's good for baking and casseroles. If you don't want heat coming from the bottom, you just want heat circulating through the top. So what coals on top, none on the bottom. So that's a 1 to 0 ratio. Now when you want to cook oven, this is good for baking cakes, which are really fun to cook in a camp oven if you get it right. Now with this you will get it right, so you can monitor your temperatures pretty easily. Just by using these ratios, you get the right temperature and the right circulation of heat. So with when you want to cook like an oven, it's 2 to 1. So you want, this is like a fan forced oven. So you want 2 lots of coals on top to 1 down the bottom. So if you put 2 shovels on top, 1 shovel down the bottom, and what that's going to do is it's going to circulate the heat like this. And that's going to cook cakes, it's going to cook meatloaves, it's going to cook all that. And pasta dishes, like a pasta bake. That's really good for pasta bake, which is another good recipe to cook in a camp oven, which I might do if you all enjoy this video. Now with roasting, it's a 1 to 1. So if you put 2 shovels on top, 2 shovels down the bottom. You want a lot of heat in the bottom and a lot of heat in top, and that's going to circulate even faster, the heat. So it's going to cook right through the meat, and it's going to pressurise not only the top with the steam, but it's going to keep it all in there. And if you all know about pressure cookers and that, the higher the pressure, the faster things cook. So keep an eye on if you're roasting. Like I said, you can cook a half leg of lamb fully cooked in about 2 hours if you do this 1 to 1 ratio. So if you want to have lunch, you chuck it on about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and you'll have lunch about 12. So it's really good. And yeah, like I said, what this does is it circulates the heat even faster, gets right through the meat and cooks. This is good for roasting, really good for vegetables as well. But make sure if you're going to cook up vegetables, you've got to cook it with the meat. Use this if you've got 2 camp ovens and you want to cook vegetables. Use the oven ratio, so 1 to 2 on top. Yeah, this is what I use as a rough guide to cook absolutely everything in camp ovens, from pizzas to desserts to cakes, pasta bakes, roast vegetables, all that. You can cook them in a camp oven if you just follow these basic ratios. Now when you want to fry something, it's stovetop, but just smash the coals in, just pile the coals up so the heat's right in there. So because when you want to fry like chicken and that, you want it about 180 degrees, and camp ovens are really good at distributing heat. So whatever you put in the bottom, it's going to come up the sides. So if it gets too hot, just know it's going to cool down as it comes up like that. So the heat's going to rise up the camp oven and cool down at the top. So you can monitor that. I think I use about 3 shovel loads of coals, and that's about 190 degrees for frying, and that'll maintain 190 degrees for a very long time. So hope this is very helpful for you, and when those dumplings are finished, I'm going to show you that and serve them up and have a nice bite. As you can see, these are cooked up nice. That syrup it's just turned into a nice glaze, and these are doubled in size. I've turned them once. You don't have to. I just wanted a bit of browning on the top. Look at that. Now I'm going to just put these in a nice container. You can see, look at that, just look at the inside of that. Now I tested that one to make sure I was cooking right. That's why it was cut down in the middle. But just look at that glaze down there. Oh. And then you can tilt your camp oven to the side, like so, and scoop out all the glaze and just drizzle them over your dumplings, and they should be A1 to eat. Righto guys, thanks for watching another episode, and I'll get on to making another one sometime this week. Hope you've enjoyed.